Today we're joined with Christina Lampe-Onnerud, founder and CEO of Cadenza Innovation. Christina is a true pioneer, previously founding Boston Power and now leading next generation energy storage, while also helping strengthen the U.S. battery supply chain through her leadership with LiveBridge. Next, we have Andy Funk, Executive Vice President and CFO of EnerSys, a $6.5 billion global leader in industrial energy systems and storage. Andy brings deep expertise in finance and operations. She is a strong advocate for advancing women in leadership. And last but certainly not least, we have Tara Meisinger, Maintenance and Reliability Engineering Manager at Tesla. Tara has built and led highly automated production environments across industries from Formula One and aerospace to major automotive manufacturers. She is passionate about bringing AI, data, and human expertise together on the factory floor. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah, so to get us warmed up, I'd like to start with the classic Volta question. What is your state of charge? Christina, I'll hand it over to you first.
I am feeling really excited about what can be, but of course dismayed with present events. So I'll give it a 60%.
Tara?
I'm gonna give it like an 80%. I echo Christina's excitement. And I also, like I said in the breakout sessions, just started a new job, so that's all new and exciting. But I will say this daylight savings time is killing me, and I have had a very off-kilter week.
Yeah, I feel you. That 1 hour really makes a big difference.
You wouldn't think, but oh my God.
Andy, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say 90%. These are really exciting times. I spent the day yesterday talking to a lot of investors. We have a lot going on, and I'm energized by the importance of the work that we're doing at EnerSys and by doing alongside teammates who really care about the company and care about each other. But when I need to recharge, spending time with my children and volunteering in the community really helps me.
That's great to hear. Now, let's start with your journeys. Each one of you comes to the battery manufacturing industry from a different angle. So I'm curious, can you share any key experiences that brought you into the industry? Tara?
Yeah, this is also funny because we were talking about it in my breakout sessions, but there's a lot of academia in the room now around batteries. That stuff didn't exist when I was first entering the workforce. So frankly, I fell backwards into batteries. I took a job that looked fun, and luckily it was I equated it to kind of like a teaching hospital where they really slowed down and taught me everything there was to know about not only the equipment that needs to manufacture these things, but how batteries work internally, because those two things really need to mesh, maybe unlike any other product on the market. So I was very lucky in that very first experience. And then, it was just a booming time. And I got in at the ground floor of the Gigafactory out here in Nevada and, never looked back.
Awesome. Andy, how about you?
Yeah, manufacturing has always appealed to me because it's really tangible. You can touch it walking the shop floor. And what I love about it is it's the ultimate team sport. You've got sales, ops, engineering, HR, IT. We all have to work together. And you're making choices that affect the economy, the world, and people on the floor and customers in the field. I've worked in a series of industrial manufacturing organizations from pharma, med devices, steel, copper tubing, in different operational finance roles, from CFO, CEO. And now in battery manufacturing, when I joined EnerSys 7 years ago, I'm humbled by all the strong technical women that I talked to in the breakout sessions and on the panel. I'm a debits and credits girl. So for me, battery manufacturing is particularly exciting with the constraints that we knowledge. There really is no better place to be right now than energy storage.
Thank you for that. It's awesome to see the battery industry growing so that there's more different types of career paths that can lead you to battery as well. Christina, I'd love to hear from you on your key experiences.
Yes, so PhD chemist and minor in mathematics with a few patents already as a grad student and then postdoc at MIT, and just saw this innovation machine opportunity But quickly realized in order to get those innovations into the market to actually use them, you have to follow these disruptive ideas first through product design. And that is a really big milestone. Is this what the market can use? And usually when you're a disruptor, the market doesn't know and you don't know. So you basically catalyze a solution to a problem that you think is somewhat big. And it turns out sometimes it's a really big problem and you have a really awesome solution. So you know the design, and then making it happen means you have to stay into manufacturing. So the devil is in the detail. We all live in a very, very interesting space. Tiny changes or tiny mistakes will tip off a whole slew of problems. While when you put all of your attention to detail and you do it right, the reward is enormous. So an exciting time to do both the most strategic high opportunity and pair it with very detailed knowledge and the humility for what we don't know. Future is coming quickly, and we are moving very quickly with a lot of uncertainty globally.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Christina, what you're talking about with product design, that really leads me well to the next question of one of the biggest challenges in the industry is moving from breakthrough ideas in the lab to reliable production at massive scale. So let's talk. What decisions matter most and how have advancements in technology helped? Andy, how about you take over and share more of the financial perspective from there?
Yeah, so I'm not going to have the technical side, but I'll say when you scale, I think the decisions that matter most are the ones you can't easily undo. So whether it's a decision on a capacity expansion, automation, a footprint choice, supply chain commitment, and acquisition. And for me, this is why the financial modeling is so important. I look at finance as just a way to articulate what you've done and where you're going using numbers instead of letters so you can remove some of the subjectivity of words. I think every choice we make can be seen in our financials, and every decision we're considering can be expressed as sometimes an enormous, but an equation with an answer. It's really those assumptions that can and should be debated in collaboration with business partners. So this is why working with the technical folks like we have here in the call is so important. And what I like about that approach is you make that high level financial model at the beginning of the process, focusing on the big rocks. What could this look like? And as you learn more, you update, expand, do more research, get more detailed with your assumptions, particularly those that have the biggest impact on the overall model. So just like Christina was referring to with the disruptions that are occurring and market volatility in our end markets, this is really important. So the model can be a living, breathing tool to make decisions about the scope and impact of the investment, should be revised and revisited at every go, no-go decision. And then ultimately you end up with a roadmap or a budget that you can hold yourself accountable for in doing what we're charged to do. Sometimes the answer isn't as expected. I think you need to be really disciplined about doing the analysis to help make and optimize a decision, not creating analysis to justify a foregone conclusion, because we get emotional about it. But I think it just can be a tool along the way to help work with our business partners.
Yeah, that really bridges the common language between different teams. And so speaking of tools, Tara, I know you have a lot of experience in AI, so would love to hear from you on that and how that's helped manufacturing.
And I think, it's here whether, depending on how we feel about it, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge it. I'm a big believer in AI. I really believe, especially, for some of those companies that have really been able to ramp up. Now the question becomes, how are you going to stay at the front of the pack? And I really believe that hinges on how quickly you can learn. And so that's what I really like to use AI for, is to speed up that learning. I love it. It's very exciting. I love to build tools that help people enter this industry that maybe haven't had experience in it. So like, for example, I manage a bunch of maintenance technicians. We hire people all the time that haven't worked on a battery line. You would say most of the population haven't worked on a battery line. So there's a huge obstacle in upskilling these people to be able to make this product. So I love to use AI for that, love to use AI for speeding up research, getting to root cause faster. The big caveat, though, and the caution that I have learned while building these tools is, generally speaking, our data sets are not ready to be ingested by AI. And that's why we get, some of these models that, don't quite make sense, or we think, oh, maybe this isn't working, maybe we're not there yet. Really, really spend the time, if I can give you some advice, to clean up your data and make your data set ingestible by the AI so that it can kind of do its thing and take you as far as you want to go.
Amazing. Thank you for that perspective. Christina, with your involvement in LiveBridge and supply chain in the US, would love to hear how that your perspective on advancements and decisions for scaling.
Yeah, absolutely. So I chair the Lithium-ion Battery Competitiveness Committee on behalf of DOE. And what we have found, of course, is that this has been a known issue for the United States specifically. A lot of innovation happens here. Capital has not easily flowed into the base mining industry nor the chemical industry. We have a few very large chemical companies, and the mining industry is also consolidating globally. So the stakes are higher than they were, say, 20 years ago. With the US coming in and Europe is coming in, and lots of countries want to lessen their dependence on China right now, there is a consolidated effort to try to seek other mineral deposits and find other ways to refine and bring refinement closer to point of use. Ultimately, this is the fine hand in glove equation between technology meets capital, or really cost of capital, and then ultimately, what is the cost of goods sold? So we have an unbelievable opportunity to diversify global supply chain on this, as well as both the feed-in chemical industry, the hardware components, as well as the manufacturing, everything from materials, high precision materials, to formulated cells, to packs, to modules, to systems, and then all across the communications, and then adding a layer of software and cybersecurity. This is all being worked on in parallel. And while there's a lot of capital needed, there's also a lot of capital available. However, when we have uncertainty in policy, I can't stress this enough, and we don't know what the policy will be even 5 years from now, we hesitate in making investments. And as a CEO, I hesitate because I don't know if I can deliver all of the parameters that I think I could. If I had a 30-year horizon, this would be a very different discussion. So when we started LiveBridge, we said, I actually said, in order to chair it, give me at least 20 years. And they said, we can't guarantee it, but we'll give you 10 years. And that is ironclad. Oh, voila. It is not ironclad. And a lot of the policies that went into that study have now been ripped off. So it's interesting. I did a garden year in between two companies next to Ray Dalio at Bridgewater, where we look at uncertainty. And what I learned, my number one takeaway from that year at Bridgewater was we can predict economics, we can do fantastic models, but we can never predict human behavior. And that's where we are, friends. It is insane. Opportunity is huge, stakes are high, and we remain as a human race a wee bit indecisive.
Yeah, I think that really shows that with any industry, people are the most unpredictable factor. And so we have to learn to live and work with different types and sets of people. And so now I want to shift gears and talk about leadership in this industry. From a Women in the Workplace 2025 report by Leanan and McKinsey, women are still underrepresented at every level, especially in senior leadership, where they hold 29% of C-suite roles. Within STEM-based companies, that number drops further to 12.4 based on a report from the Society of Women Engineers. So I just want to take a quick poll. Raise your hand if you've been the only woman in the room. So I can see that this is an experience that is clearly something many women share. I want to ask all three of you, how do you stay authentic and resilient when you're leading in environments built long before women were expected to lead them? Tara?
Yeah. And I would even offer that, that goes even double or triple for maintenance. There are almost no women in maintenance. But how I like to stay authentic is I don't compromise the feminine parts of myself. It took me a while, I think, to learn that. I spent a long time trying to frankly act more like a man, and realize that that's not me and that's not my superpower. So two things can exist. I can be a rock star maintenance person, and I can, have pretty hair and like makeup, and both of those things can exist, and both of those things are what make you you. You don't have to necessarily conform to this male environment. You have to expand the male environment to accept, all different types of people.
Thank you for that. I think the theme of femininity is something that Christina and I also talked about with her background in music and ballet. And so, Christina, would you like to share some of your perspective there?
Yeah, absolutely. So ballet is a wonderful analogy because you're expected to look something or be something. And backstage, you are expected to be something very different. So on stage, you drive the performance, you can be a prima donna, and you are expected to have the power and be admired. Backstage, you're a team player. What you look like really matters on stage, doesn't matter so much off stage. And I think our industry is very similar. With the few women that we have in the industry, I think a few things comes to mind. One, learn the unwritten rules of the game. Don't deny your person, but don't unnecessarily challenge the paradigm. If you know you're going into a very conservative environment, dress conservatively, use more polite and proper language. When you go into a hipper environment, put on the cool boots and like go with more modern lingo. That's okay. But like read your audience and the opportunities. I think that skill set has never been more important in my career than it is right now. I think the amount of expectations of women has always been high in the tech industry. The opportunity to over prepare is probably the only weapon you have in the end. You can't change that when you walk into a room, everybody goes like, wait, what is she wearing? Whoa, aren't those high heels? Whatever stupid comment comes, and you get all these comments. My general style to that, staying kind of who I am, is like, yeah, those are high heels. Go figure. Like make a joke of it, like make it lovely. Don't take it on. So I think that the idea of the unwritten rules of the game challenge what really needs to challenge. Like think about what war you want to win.
Thank you. And Andy, when I was talking to you, you mentioned the phrase humble and hungry. How does that play into how you stay authentic and resilient in your leadership environments?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say I am blown away by all these technical people we have here. So I think that says a lot. And I do want to do a shout out for Volta because I think doing things like a network here to support people is important. I've learned that resilience to me is less about being tough every day, more about being grounded. So resilience and authenticity aren't always easy, but they're incredibly important, both to maximize your own potential and then also to create pathways for other women who are watching you. So getting to the humble and hungry, Lucy, in finance, our finance team at EnerSys, we have a mantra of being humble and hungry. So team first and relentlessly being better and doing better every day. We celebrate good examples and hold ourselves accountable for the 5 core behaviors that this mantra encompasses. I've got a bracelet that says EnerSys Finance, humble and hungry. I wear it every day as a reminder to myself about how I need to lead. And that helps me stay grounded. One of the 5 core behaviors embodied in our vision of being humble and hungry, and one of my favorites, is to care for one another and have fun. So caring for each other can be caring for the community and its the company and its success, caring for your family, and importantly, caring for your teammates. There's a phrase in construction, so Tara in maintenance, you might know this, a sister joist. A sister joist is when you reinforce existing joists by attaching new joists alongside them to give additional strength and support. I do not think it's arbitrary that it's called a sister joist. Providing strength and support for each other is what women really do well. So I think we need to be a sister joist. We need to pull others into the conversation, name their contributions, help them find their voices. As a female leader, caring for other female professionals is particularly important for both creating an environment where all employees can thrive and as well as the reward you get personally from helping others. So finally, that leads to work-life integration. This is all related. I prefer to look at it as work-life integration, not work-life balance. We bring our full selves to work every day. I think, Tara, just as you mentioned. And first and foremost, my biggest priority in my life is I'm a mom to three beautiful children, Bailey, Maddie, and Julian. I've had to make difficult, conscious choices, like not always being at every school or work event, but yet finding other ways to show up even more fully for my team at work and my children, integrating my family, community, and work. And I believe it's made my relationships with my children stronger because they've seen these choices and know how important they are to me. And at work, it's enabled my colleagues to know me more completely, which I really think is a key ingredient to trust. And I think trust is at the foundation of successful leadership. So I don't try to mirror a room to belong. I focus on doing the work, being helpful, and then following through. Earlier in my career, I had been coached to act or dress like a man. I didn't take that advice. I think women in leadership, particularly in male-dominated industries, have the responsibility to show up authentically as a woman, as a mother, as a daughter. Just being your true self can help to inspire other women to know what their true potential can be, and that it's more than okay. It is admirable to be a female professional and a business leader.
Thank you for all those perspectives. And I hope this inspires everyone to be more authentic in who they are in the workplace and in their personal lives. And so as we look ahead, the battery industry is growing incredibly fast. And there's places that the industry has grown, but progress may have also stalled. But I want to make this more practical for the women and future leaders in the audience. So what can we do today to ensure the success of women in battery manufacturing? Christina, would you like to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if we recognize that we are in an era of need and competence, then actually we should be gender blind. So I would empower ourselves to help each other when there's another woman in the room, acknowledge what she said. And frequently, the difference by being the only woman versus having two is you could say, oh, here's my idea. Nobody hears it. And then in a minute, Lucy says, hey, I think Christina just said that. Let's do it again and give the ball back. That is like one of the tricks of the trade that we can basically stay united. Another one is that reach out to somebody. Nobody will decline a call when you have a problem if you need some coaching. I have found women, especially in this industry, to be enormously generous. There are conferences all the time where you have women take them aside, meet up in person, give a call, shout out at LinkedIn, try to connect and ask for advice. The power sits in not being right all the time, but when you think you're right, you better be right. When you think you're wrong, admit your errors early and just try to drive for that level of excellence and lead with that example of bringing people along and just try really hard for good results.
Thank you. Andy, how about from you?
Yeah, I can think of three practical strategies. Find sponsors, build your network by being of value, and take stretch roles that expand your operating understanding. So first, executive sponsorship and alloys, mentors advise, sponsors advocate, both matter, but sponsors can really change the trajectories of careers. So we have a formal mentoring program at EnerSys, but it doesn't need to be formal. You can do this informally as well. Build your network by giving. Don't wait until you need something. Be known as someone who helps others, connects people, and delivers. Opportunities will follow. I will say of the many roles I've had in my career, I only applied to a handful. Most of them were created for me, and that came from relationships that were built over time by being useful and reliable. And finally, get breadth. Say yes to roles that stretch you. Operations, exposure, manufacturing, finance, business development, stepping into a new zone. Sometimes being a woman can actually work to your advantage. As Christina mentioned, people are curious because they're different, so they watch you. Surprise them by being authentic and by being excellent. So if you do better and get better every day, you give back, you care about and help other women, you create these informal networks for other women at your company, communities, local schools, mentor other female professionals, talking to middle school students. It's important. We have exciting jobs in battery manufacturing, and we need these skills and talents.
Thanks. Tara, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to echo my other two panelists. Definitely find mentors, sponsors. I've been lucky enough to find a couple. I realize they're few and far between, but please approach that woman that you admire at work. I guarantee she's going to be flattered and want to talk to you about everything she's learned. The only thing I would add too is also find male allies. I've been lucky enough to get a couple of my male coworkers on my side. So, if I'm showing some data or, presenting a strategy and it's not quite landing, I have allies that are men in the room that say, no, like engineering agrees with Tara, not even the data, not the idea. We agree with Tara. Tara is right. And that has been incredibly impactful in me feeling heard and me getting my ideas across is having those allies in the room always. And then lastly, I would suggest like give back. And I realize that that is incredibly difficult right now with the war on DEI, but the more we can get little girls, high school age, college age people to see themselves in these careers, the more they're going to pursue them. And so just statistically speaking, we're going to have more women entering the workforce in these STEM fields, and they will eventually get promoted, and we will be able to, kind of balance out the scales a little bit.
Let me just add one addition to Tara's excellent comment here. One, in your peer group where you have friends, when they don't see if you get slighted, don't be shy taking them to the side and say, hey, this felt really hurtful to me. Could you help me be heard in this session? Or can you help shut the room down? That is the other thing, like the superpower of individual power. Take your friends and let them know. I think many men don't see it. But they don't see it. So that's just quick addition.
Yeah, thank you for all the great insights. I think with our earlier question of women being the only women in the room, it really takes women and allies for us to be successful in this industry and any industry. And so, before we open it up to audience questions, I'd love to do a quick lightning round so that everyone leaves with something to explore. So, I wanted to ask, what is a book, podcast, or newsletter that you'd recommend? Andy, I'll start off with you.
Yeah, so our management team at EnerSys, we used Lencioni's The Advantage as a playbook for much of our transformation, which I love. I'm a fan of several Lencioni books. My favorite industrial psychologist is Adam Grant, so anything by Adam Grant, put at the top of the list. And my all-time personal favorite, it's just a really short parable you can read. It's called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. It's just about how if you focus on being a go-giver versus a go-getter, success follows. So I really like that one also.
Awesome, thank you. Christina, how about you?
My on life trainer is Wall Street Journal. Keep up with the times, know what's going on, don't get caught. Read it in the morning before you get in engagements. So follow some sectors and be judicious in staying up on what's current. Things are moving quicker every year, and being current, I think, is really critical.
Yeah, it's so easy to put your blinders on when things are happening so fast, but thanks for that. Tara, how about you?
Yeah, first off, second vote for Adam Grant. Everything he writes is wonderful. But I did want to recommend a book called Impact Players by Liz Wiseman, who's a female author, so please go support. But it talks a lot about how a lot of people are doing a ton of work, doing great work, and just not getting noticed. And what's the difference between the people who are getting noticed, are getting the promotions, are getting the projects, and those who don't? And it talks a lot about keeping your eye on the pulse of the business, doing the work that people want. And Doc just talks a lot about working smarter, not harder, and becoming more visible. So I think that's particularly helpful for this kind of group.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I'm excited to check out all these recommendations, and we'd love to bring the audience into the conversation. So what questions do you have for our panelists? Please feel free to use the raise hand function and go ahead and call on some folks. All right, go ahead. Bahar.
Oh, it's me. Hi, thank you so much for all the insights you shared. This was really inspiring to see women who are in different fields of battery. So I just had a question in line with what Christina was just sharing about what is the current problems that you guys are dealing with? What are the challenges? What are the trends in your individual role and in your industry inside of the industry? So I would really love to hear about what the trends are a little more. I'm from Canada, so I know it's sometimes a little different, the priorities that we're pursuing versus different companies around the world. So I'm really curious to learn more about what you are on today dealing with in terms of challenges.
Well, that's a big open net. There's a lot of, every day there's a lot of stuff. It's a great question. In addition to just regular business, I think navigating but couple onto that, the dynamics that we have with a lot of geopolitical tensions, and different dynamics that the administration, be it tariffs, Iran, how that's going to play out and how that's going to impact everything is certainly something that we've spent a lot of time on.
I'm thinking also a lot about mental health in general for people around me. So with a lot of ambiguity and less routine possible, and future kind of may look frightening, to stay grounded in the present. So I think little acts of kindness, dropping off a flower on somebody's desk, sending a card, bringing a cup of tea, making time for lunch. These things I think are really, really important, and it is good to do. And on the subject of giving, it's a small gift that also helps you.
Yeah, it's true.
Great, thank you for that. Rashi, I see your hand is raised.
Yes. So my question was going to be how to not come off as a little aggressive when you're trying to get work done for your project as a PM. Because the thing is, I drive to get things done because the deadline was given to me was so and so, but I ended up being called out like as an aggressive, but in a fun way. But it still sits with me. You keep thinking about it. So that's something I wanted to ask, and if you have faced anything like that before.
No, never. Of course, of course. I would go to the easiest way to diffuse an attack is humor. Easiest. So if you can say, when somebody attacks you, say you seem very aggressive, you're like, yeah, I'm like a dog today. Where's the bone? Let's go get it. And just take it away from yourself. Make it a joke. If you find that a person is going after you aggressively, take that person to the side outside the meeting and just say, hey, are you aware that you said this first? So kind of check in. And then they say yes or no. And then if they say yes, you say, great. Here's another way, if you don't mind, to say the same thing, which would appear less hurtful to me. You can coach people, even people that seem very negative on you. One-on-one is a different story.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
The only other thing I'd add to that, Rashi, I think that was great, is I think your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. So just being aware, maybe it's coming across aggressive, and I like Christine's suggestions on how to make it less, more collaborative and get people on the same page. But you being aggressive is not necessarily a bad thing. You're a project manager. You got a lot of shit to get done, and you should be proud of that. So you don't soften and step back, but maybe just find out how you can play with the others in a way, and one-on-one build those relationships. But I love that you're a strong, tenacious woman, and I think we need more of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, my first thought was, when you first asked the question, is like, of course you're going to be labeled as aggressive. You're a woman. If a man said the exact same thing, I'm sure it would be no problem. So keep that kind of in the back of your mind, that may never go away, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong. But how I kind of like to soften things is I like to ask questions. You'll kind of, if you work with me day to day, you'll see I don't really speak in sentences and statements. I'm always asking questions. I'm trying to get the team to arrive at the correct answer instead of me just, this is how it has to be. So maybe try that approach too.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great. So I think we only have time for one more question. So Grace, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, so thank you so much for allowing me to answer a question, for you guys putting on this webinar today. It's been very helpful. I am a incoming professional. I just graduated from undergraduate school. So you guys have been talking about mentorship. So my question is going to be a bit broad for you guys to answer, but what would be each of your advice as someone trying to enter the workforce without necessarily any manufacturing or battery, like hands-on, I guess, battery experience up to this point. And also I'm interested in getting into project management. So in terms of those brief things you know about me, what kind of advice would you give to someone starting out?
Yeah, I actually just started a new job too, so I am in your shoes. And the way I've approached it is first and foremost, I am a student. I am asking questions, I am learning from everybody. And that also gives you a platform to build relationships, which is really what we're great at as women, is building and maintaining these relationships. And those, I think, ultimately are going to carry you further than the technical knowledge, but use those relationships just to continue learning. And absorbing as much as you can, especially in the first, 6 months, year. And then what was I going to add? Also really great advice I've been given when you're looking for a mentor is pay attention to people in the C-suite in these bigger meetings. Write down who you admire and what exactly it is they're doing in these meetings that you admire, because then those give you kind of tangible things that you can emulate and would help you grow.
Great.
My general advice is always you interview your boss. That's the most important decision you do. Go with somebody that you admire, that you love, that you think can help you. That is huge.
The only thing I'd add is, every privilege, there's an accompanying responsibility. Take the responsibility on first. So don't step outside your role. Do more than is being asked. In the beginning, you might not know, but think you're there for a reason. You're smart. Most of us didn't know how to do our jobs before we were in them. So don't get intimidated by that. And just, do a little more than is asked of you. And that's how those additional opportunities will be brought your way.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And thanks everyone for all your thoughtful questions. I want to come back to Rosie the Riveter. Rosie showed the world that women belong in manufacturing. And today, Tara, Andy, and Christina are proving that women don't just belong in this industry, they're leading it. Thank you to our incredible panelists and all of you for joining the conversation.